Ontario versus Starlink. I'm going to walk you through one of the most counterproductive policy moves in recent Canadian history. How the Ontario government canceled a Starlink contract to send a message, paid a penalty to do it, delayed internet service for rural Canadians, and then still ended up paying Elon Musk anyway, just in a different way. This is the story of when political symbolism went to war with reality, and reality won. In November 2024, Ontario signed a contract with Starlink, Elon Musk's satellite internet service. The contract was reportedly valued at about 100 million Canadian dollars and was supposed to connect roughly 15,000 remote homes and businesses across northern Ontario, regions where fiber isn't feasible. This project was about modern connectivity for rural families, online learning access for children, communication infrastructure for healthcare and emergency services, basic economic inclusion for remote communities. It was a practical solution to a real problem, and Starlink's system was ready to go. Then, in February 2025, Premier Doug Ford abruptly announced that Ontario would tear up the contract. His justification? Retaliation for U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. He repeatedly used phrases like open quote, we're ripping up the contract, close quote, and he drew a direct line between standing up for Canada economically and not doing business with Elon Musk's company. In other words, Starlink, and by association Musk, became a political target. It didn't matter that Musk had nothing to do with US trade policy. What mattered was the symbolism. The message was, we won't let American companies profit while they're hurting Canada. By March 2025, Ford emphatically declared, it's done, it's gone. By July 2025, media confirmed Ontario had officially canceled the Starlink agreement. But there's a catch. The province had to pay a cancellation fee. The exact amount has not been made public, but the government acknowledged a penalty was paid. So here's what happened, step by step. A working internet plan for rural Ontario was in motion. The government canceled it for political optics, rural communities lost the service, and taxpayers had to pay for the privilege of canceling it. This isn't fiscal discipline, it's performative nationalism with a bill attached. The government's promise, a Canadian replacement. To justify the move, the government said, open quote, don't worry, we will replace Starlink with a Canadian solution. Close quote. That solution was Telesat, Canada's satellite communications company. On the surface, supporting a domestic provider sounds patriotic and strategic. But here come two hard realities. Problem number one, Telesat's system wasn't ready. Telesat's low Earth orbit network, called Lightspeed, is still under development. In early 2025, the facts were, Telesat did not have an active LEO network. Telesat did not have consumer broadband capacity yet. Full deployment was expected around 2027, 2028. So, canceling Starlink meant delaying service by several years. Problem number two, Telesat relies on SpaceX rockets. Now, here is the irony that makes this story almost unbelievable. Ontario canceled Starlink to avoid doing business with Elon Musk, yet the Canadian replacement depends on Elon Musk anyway. Telesat launches its Lightspeed satellites on SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. Blue Origin has also been announced as a future partner, but their rockets are not operational at scale yet. So the Canadian alternative literally uses Musk's launch system to exist. And here's the financial reality behind that decision. Analysts estimate the launch agreement to be worth roughly $900 million to 938 million USD for SpaceX, depending on volume pricing. The upper figure, around $938 million, is the most frequently cited benchmark. Future Telesat filings may refine the final total, but either way, this means Canada is committing close to $1 billion US to SpaceX for launch services. So let's simplify. Ontario refuses to pay Musk to provide internet service. Ontario pays money to cancel the contract, and now Canada pays Musk close to $1 billion to launch the satellites for the replacement. That isn't resisting Elon Musk, that is paying him through a different division and at a much higher price point. Impact on Canadians who wins in this story? Not rural students, not remote healthcare workers, not Indigenous communities, not northern small businesses. The winners are bureaucratic symbolism, political theater, and ironically Elon Musk, who still gets paid. The losers? Taxpayers, rural families, communities already underserved, Anyone who believed this decision was about Canadian independence instead of optics. The government didn't block Musk. They blocked rural internet access and still wrote Musk a massive check. Reality versus symbolism. This entire situation is a reminder. Reality does not care about political speeches. You cannot moral posture your way around physics, rocket capacity, deployment timelines, supply chains, market dominance. Starlink worked right now. Telesat won't be ready until 2027, 2028, and uses SpaceX rockets anyway. Ontario didn't stand up to America. They stood between remote Canadians and their internet connection and paid extra for the privilege. To recap, in one breath, Ontario signed a $100 million deal with Starlink to connect rural families, then tore it up to send a political message about U.S. tariffs, paid a penalty to do so, left remote communities waiting years longer for broadband. And now Canada must still rely on Elon Musk's rockets to the tune of roughly $900 million to 938 million USD to deploy the replacement system. If the goal was don't do business with Elon Musk, it failed. If the goal was help rural Canadians, it failed completely. This wasn't strategy, this was symbolism. And real people and real money paid the price. Sometimes ideology slams into engineering reality, and engineering reality wins every single time.